The timer on it now.
A while back, a 13-year-old girl was walking her pit bull dog when suddenly violence broke out between her dog and another. So I'm going to try and persuade you that there is a very strong prejudice against bully breeds, specifically pit bulls. And there's a very unfounded and harmful mentality against these animals. So some of you may be hostile against this idea, and I'm hopefully going to show you that pit bulls have been discriminated against and this negative stereotypes actively harm them. So, and some of you may agree with me, and I'm hoping to give you more information to persuade other people to be more open-minded about this breed. So I personally have a best friend with a dog, with a pit bull, and I also have an uncle who has a pit bull, so I know about, raising them and what it's like. And I have done the research on websites, educational journals, and news articles. So I'm just going to try and let you know how bully breed pit bulls get a bad name and how it negatively affects them. How we can hopefully change this idea about them for more positivity, and just go over the argument against pit bulls and what the anti-bully breed people fail to understand about this animal and condemning them. So the bad name, a lot of what happens is they get this bad name from the media and stuff and bad representation. They're one of the most common dog in the news because of flashy attacks and things that catch people's attention. And like here we have an example of just a generic Google search of this animal. And here we have what a lot of news articles had in stories about pit bull attacks. So obviously, this is a kind of representation, but it's just showing how there can be a difference between the two. And this is obviously trying to portray them as an aggressive dog and, an attack state. And this is obviously a dog that's been, trained and whatever. So, and this idea about them, these negative ideas about them, perpetuated by this, has a very negative effect on them. In fact, 75% of shelters euthanize pit bulls upon arrival. And the more lenient shelters give them often a 24-hour period to be adopted before they're euthanized. So, and that's according to pit bulls being one of the most euthanized breed of dogs from an 2013 article from www.wistv.com, last access December 2nd. And in fact, Denver actually started a recent, in 2002, they started a ban against pit bulls in which they looked to euthanize unregistered and feral dogs of that breed in the area. And here we have a chart of pit bulls euthanized. And 2002, 2009, 2005, 2006, you can see almost 700 were euthanized in both those years. And by 2009, they had almost been eliminated from the state. And here we have an example of a comparison of dogs that are taken in, dogs that are euthanized in shelters, and dogs that are adopted. And obviously pit bulls lead by a wide margin of both being brought in and being euthanized. And so yeah, and the reason why there's so many dogs and why they're brought into shelters, and one of the reasons they actually kind of need to be euthanized because there's no room for them is because they're one of the most overbred dogs in America. And this is because they're still a popular breed, even though people have a bad idea about them. And so illegal breeders and irresponsible breeders breed a lot of them, and they're abandoned or let loose, and which also gives them a bad name as being an overpopulated species. So I just went over how these dogs get their bad name, and now I'm going to try and go over a little bit about changing the perspective on bully breeds for a positive change. So obviously less dogs would be euthanized if people had a more positive outlook on them, because they could find more homes, and less money would be spent on euthanizing animals. In fact, in 2007, $2,400,000 was spent on euthanizing dogs. And obviously, and that's according to www.humanesociety.org, last access December 1st, the official site of Humane Society. So obviously the pit bulls being one of the most euthanized dogs, if the number of them being euthanized was cut down, then there would clearly be less money put into that. And also we give more opportunities for dogs. Pit bulls are actually have been used in the past very successfully as comfort animals and seeing eye dogs and things like that. So I just went over changing perspective on these animals, and now I'm going to try and look at the argument of it and how it can be, the argument against these animals now can be debunked. So a lot of people say that they're violent, and they often have no backing to this besides just looking back at stories they recently heard of that are fresh in their mind about an attack or whatever, which goes back to the idea of media having sensationalizing pit bull attacks. What people don't realize about this is that according to a December 2006 article titled "Dogs as a Marker for Deviant Behavior: Implications for Risk Assessment," last accessed December 2nd, high-risk dog owners disproportionately have more criminal records, violent criminal records, than other animals, and than other animal owners, and from violent crimes like arson, gun problems, and child abuse. So, and treatment for these animals has also been very poor. Looking at things like they're almost the exclusive breed for dog fighting. In fact, they were originally bred in London for dog fighting. And so obviously this is something that leads to their violent behavior being bred to fight and often being abused in these situations, clearly. And because they're overbred, they tend to be abandoned and cause numbers, which leads them to form packs, which causes dogs to be more aggressive, obviously, because they're looking for food and they have the capability to take down bigger prey. So, and a lot of people try and say that because so many people are entered into the hospital off pit bulls attacks, even though this is actually true, they're entered into the hospital because of pit bull attacks, and they try and say they're randomly aggressive, but this actually isn't true because stranger-directed aggression is inconsistent with the reputation, and actually most violent attacks on people is from the dog to the owner. And since they're a very abused animal, this is often, they're just trying to fend off the person who's hurting them, or other things like that. So clearly there's little backing to the allegations against the bully breeds and the violence. So we have just seen how these dogs are affected by the ideas and how changing it will help, and there's no proof that these dogs deserve their reputation. So, back to the story at the beginning, a lab was recently attacked, a lab attacked a pit bull that the little girl was walking, and they ended up owing $4,000 in bills, and the woman took no responsibility even though her dog wasn't on a leash, which we have leash laws in Idaho. So I'd like to call you all to ask, consider to me the next time you're around one of these dogs, and if you're considering adopting a dog, consider this very neglected breed. Your compassion can help change the way we treat these animals. We're literally bred to die. Thank you very much. That's the end of my speech.